Here we have the Ponytail palm. Fun fact about the Ponytail palms, they're not actually palm trees at all. They belong to the Dracaena. So this is actually a Dracaena tree, and it behaves a little bit differently than most Dracaenas that we know. But let's get into the care instructions for this guy. Starting off with light. They're gonna need super bright light, okay? So right up in a window where they can see a super wide view of the sky is going to be best. Watering for these guys is also super easy, but they can be, you know, like most Dracaenas, they can be a little bit picky about the quality of water. So what I do, you see this big codex or their big trunk that you have right here? This is a water storing system, so they are a little bit succulent in that way, is that they have a nice water storing system. So watering can be very infrequent, and I kind of treat mine like a succulent. I let it dry out almost completely in between waterings. I'll let it dry out 75% during the spring and summer months. During the winter months, I let it dry out completely, and then I just give it a thorough soak, you know, when it does dry out all the way. But if your tap water is a little bit rough, if it's above 100 parts per whatever it is, pp whatever, I would water it with a more pure water, something like rainwater or distilled water, reverse osmosis water, something like that. And that will avoid the brown tips more often. Now, that's a good thing to remember though as well, is that even grown in perfect conditions, where they grow in the wild, if they grow in a greenhouse, they're always going to get these little brown tips. Not a big deal at all. If you want to cut them off, that's perfectly fine. Otherwise, I mean, if you look at the plant from right here, you can't even tell. So I always just leave them on there. It's not a big deal, and it's a good learning lesson for how they actually grow. And you know, there's no perfection in plants, right? So moving on to fertilizing, I don't really fertilize these guys much. During the spring and the summer months when it's actively growing, I'll give it a good dose of fertilizer early on in the season, but other than that, I don't fertilize them much. They're pretty slow growing, they're not heavy feeders, so they don't require a whole bunch. If you want to repot this guy, I'd use three parts cactus soil and one part houseplant general purpose mix, whatever you have on hand or whatever you can find at your local gardening center. It works really well. Just mix those two combinations up really well, and you can pot it into a pot that's one size larger than it's currently in. They don't have huge root systems, so although this looks like it might be outgrowing the pot, the root system is actually very small, and so just be careful when you're repotting them. You don't want to get them in too big of a pot, otherwise that can keep the soil wet for too long and then you can rot the roots. But that's going to do it for the care instructions for the Ponytail palm. If you have any questions about this character, let me know in the comment section below, or you can always message me right here on Tanner the Planner.